Hey, happy midday. Happy Thursday midday. We are in the We Are Women on the Rise room having our live chat today. Today we're going to have a special guest, Althea Webber Bates, who is the founder of Project Resiliency. I see Althea coming on now. She's watching. We'll have her jump into the room. How are you guys today? We can't wait to talk to our guest. She was one of the co-writers inside the Life Balance for Women on the Rise anthology, and we're excited to just hear about how she continues to find balance and where she is with all that she is doing. Come on into the room, guys. Join us for this live chat at midday. Oh, I should record that song, right? Live chat at midday. Share this with your friends. Tell the people what we're talking about. Let's see. Ring now. This is just the coolest thing, guys. Are you guys using Facebook Live? You look so beautiful. How are you? Oh my God.
Great.
Happy New Year to you. The first time we're talking.
So long, right? Happy New Year to you as well.
No, I was saying to a friend, when do we stop saying Happy New Year? I don't know, but it's the first time.
So Steve Harvey actually did a feature on that yesterday on his show, and so his thing was like, if saying it after the 7th of January and before is when you actually formally are supposed to say Happy New Year. That was his.
Well, we're late, Steve Harvey. Excuse me, Steve.
That's all right. It's still Happy New Year for us.
Happy us. So thank you for joining me today. We are here to talk to the women in our We Are Women on the Rise, so we could share our awesome accomplishments, what we're doing, where we are, and where we plan to soar. The name
Absolutely.
Latest project, which we'll get into in a minute, right?
Yeah.
Soaring. So let's just take a step back and reflect. Tell us what awesome things you did last year, what you accomplished last year, and then we'll get into the new year and what's ahead.
Last year was amazing. God told me at the beginning of last year that a year of writing, and it really, really was. And so we actually did our annual second conference, which was amazing this year. Last year was actually my baggage claim tour. And so what my theme was last year is really helping women to reclaim, own and reclaim their baggage. And so we actually did, tours where we actually went across, different states, at conferences, doing workshops, seminars, events, some local, and some I traveled to do as well. And just talking with women about what it is to actually own their baggage, claim it and release it from them, because their true purpose can't be fulfilled unless they actually go through the process. And so we talked and met so many women, and just accomplished so much in terms of like having people just put down some of those bags. We don't realize how much we carry, especially as women of color, and how much, sometimes we carry other people's baggage, not necessarily our own, but we're carrying baggage for others, and we haven't had a chance or opportunity to let that go, because we're so busy having to be the caretakers and the folks that have to be strong and have that superwoman up, and keep going. And so what I provided was a safe space for women at the times that we met, emote, and to really let their guard down a little bit, and to also have that safe space, truly be engaged in their own self-care. So that's a big part of the pieces of the work that I do as Project Resiliency Movement, is to really help women to focus on themselves, in through a self-care process, so then they can actually attain their resiliency over things that happen in their everyday lives.
What I love about your project is that it brings to the forefront the conversation about mental health, and
yes,
being a big part of life balance, and that a sector people don't talk about. In our space, we talk about self-empowerment, and we're about the empowerment, but we have very rarely do you hear people talk about the stage before empowerment, before the success. So I appreciate your platform for bringing that, especially to African American women, so that we can talk about it, because we often carry the burden on our own shoulders by ourselves. We're the strongest. We're the head of household, even though sometimes, you know, we let them think they're the head of household, but we're really the
Right.
backbone of it all, right?
Yes.
So I thought your movement was so appropriate for the times, because we're in a season of women finally getting our voices. And
Yes.
at the same time, I don't want it to be lost on the fact that we had to go through some stuff, right?
Exactly.
We're
Exactly.
getting our voices, we're being heard, we're telling our stories. And a lot of people on, especially on these internets, on these webinars, on these social media,
Right.
are showing all the glory, all the bling, and all the, you know, what's great about my day. And, you know, it's real comforting to be able to talk about what's not so great about.
Exactly. And just have spaces and moments where it's okay to do so.
Yeah.
And so I think for us, we struggle with those. What do those spaces and moments look like? Because in so many spaces and moments, we have to be strong, and we actually have to be on guard, and we have to actually, you know, show us or have a standpoint of strength.
Right.
You know, so that's so last year was again my year of writing, in addition to kind of, you know, really trying to put forth this whole idea of reclaiming your baggage. And so 3 books in 1 year, and one to be released on, you know, around Valentine's Day weekend is going to be the 4th book, and it's been an amazing journey, especially participating with you, the collaboration for the life balance for the woman on the rise. Also, while working on my own project, Destination Resilience, which is basically a self-care guide and planner to helping people walk through the process of understanding what it takes to get to their own resilience.
Show us your book. Have it in front of you. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the planner. Look
Yes.
at that, guys. So tell us more.
So the plan,
what components does it have, and how can we get it? First of all, tell the people how to planner.
yeah. So the components, it's really about us doing the work to get to our own resiliency. So it has a lot of activities, it's strategies, it's tools. One of the sections that I'm really proud of is the section on vulnerability. And that's something that when I was actually doing a lot of research to try and figure out what does that look like, you know, are there out there that speak to vulnerability, especially with one's resiliency. There wasn't a lot out there, especially that talked about how do you actually get to the point where you can accept your vulnerability, and be okay in that space. Because again, that's something that specifically I wanted us to be have a sense of what does that look like, and how do you get there,
Right.
and how do you put those things that might challenge you in terms of being vulnerable. So that's one of the things I think I'm most proud of. This book, it allows you to do work, get to a space of vulnerability, and actually look at some of the things that might prevent you from and having you walk through that process. So it's a daily, it has a daily 365 a day kind of activity that you can kind of do to increase your resiliency and self-care. Um, there's processes. There's people that are saying they found breakthroughs in terms of just things that that have held them up in terms of their progress and process in terms of holding on to some baggage, and it's been amazing. Just a bit of feedback so far. So right now it's I'm selling it. In the next week or two, it will be available via Amazon. So I'll definitely probably share that information with you and your group for folks to be able to access it via Amazon. So it's going through that create space process right now. So I've mostly been selling it locally for the last month.
Okay, and hopefully in Connecticut and wherever they can find you.
Yeah. So
And
this year I'll be doing a book tour based on the book. We'll be doing some things in state, traveling to some other Miami, Philadelphia, DC, you know, to do some book tour with the book as well.
Tell us about your other book. You had another book that came out with another one of our friends.
Yes.
Jackie, tell us about Soaring to Greatness, and
yes.
You guys did a major launch success, and kudos to you guys for such a great launch event. I watched live stream, and I'm really excited and proud for what you guys have done with this book and your accomplishments. So tell us about the book and what your contributions are.
Awesome. So it's stories of everyday people doing kind of extraordinary things and taking leaps of faith. It's sort of greatness. And all of us were kind of asked to share what was our launching point to greatness. What was that thing, that life-changing impact moment that was a space that was our launching point for greatness. So in my particular contribution, I talked about my story in terms of like the thing that launched me into actually being who I am and being purposeful around the work that I do and helping me to be intentional about what I do, which is a situation where I actually legs in one year. And I think I shared this story with you too a little bit later. And so I talked about my chapter is actually called Beauty and, because what I realized through going through that process where I actually broke two legs 5 months apart, was that process was something that I had to go through because I needed that time to stop and be in tune with what God wanted me to do, and time to kind of share with me, pour into me, and to kind of allow me to understand what my true purpose was here for, is that space and time, the moment, own that moment, accept that moment for what it is, and be still.
Right.
And so during that space where I was still and allowing God to kind of pour into me, that's when I kind of learned about what my purpose was, and one of the things He talked to me about was brokenness, and that this would allow me to understand what brokenness meant. So I was experiencing brokenness in all areas of my life during this time, through relationships, spiritually, physically being broken in terms of having two legs and not being mobile, having to learn to walk again, having to gain my mobility and going through that process again, to walk. And so that process then allowed me to understand, going through that phase, the phase which God introduced me to around resiliency, and not familiar with that word terminology, didn't use everyday vernacular, but it was something that that God to me and told me to study and meditate on that word resiliency, and really get a sense of what it really means to be resilient. He said that that's going to be the result of being broken, is that He would pick up those pieces if I allowed Him to, and then that He would allow me to go through to understand what it meant to be resilient after actually Him break me in all those facets and areas of, and I don't think I've been the same since. It's really been me living intentionally since having that experience happen to me, to live with intention. And so I live purposefully with intention with the things that I do, based on that experience. So that's what I kind of spoke about, a little bit, and alluded to a lot more in the chapter.
Right. So they got to get the book to find out.
They got to get it to get the rest of the story.
Got to get the book. But I think it's so, I don't know if it's a thing of as I get older, or the people that are in my space now, I'm finding it so comforting that we can talk openly about the messages God is sending us, the things that we are, the lessons we're learning through our faith.
Yes.
Right? It's been so.
Yes.
Past couple of years, just listening to my inner self and God talking to me and really being obedient.
True.
Just being still in the moments of prayer and focus has completely changed my life, and just how you just described change your life as well. And I think that's so awesome.
Yes, it is. And one of the things that I've gained too is, I remember praying and asking God for really have a support system of people that I can kind of like just, support, and then they can support me and challenge me to help me to kind of grow and to build and to become my best me. And watching Him I call them my anchor people. So watching Him place those anchor people in my life. So they weren't people that there were people that He chose and anchored them in my life strategically. And allowing Him to do that, and recognizing and being cognizant of those individuals. It's been amazing. That's part of the journey. And just kind of even have relationships with women in a different way, through that process has been like learning how to actually form a sisterhood. Going through that process and that journey.
I love that, because you guys in Connecticut, I don't know if it's just because it's Connecticut, but I see you guys, when y'all get together, honey, y'all can feel a space. Everybody is just it is that sisterhood that everyone is looking for. You guys stay supportive. You guys are always sharing and coming together live. The whole social media game is changing that one-on-one interaction, but I love to see that you and your sisterhood friends get together often and just communicate. I think that is something that sometimes gets a little lost in our online game that we're all a part of, but I think you guys are doing, and Connecticut is real, y'all. To follow Althea and all the girls out there in Connecticut and see what they're doing.
Come join us. You gotta come up.
I know. Every time my schedule is so crazy. Every time you have something going on, or Dr. Jackie, I'm like, oh man, I'm already booked. But God is good, because I'm booked.
Yeah, it'll happen. It's supposed to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to get back to what you were talking about. God spoke to you and really had you kind of learn and understand what resiliency means.
Yes.
Tell us what you learned about the word and the meaning.
Right. So after kind of studying it and meditating on it, what I did learn, and probably the most simplest definition of it, is it's to actually be stretched, pressed, pulled, and challenged, and strained. But then how do you actually have those experiences in your life where you're stretched, pulled, and pressed, and challenged? How do you back and come back to your original state? How do you going through that process where sometimes God's doing that stretching of us?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes experiences that we're having, that we're being stretched and pulled and pressed on, is God that to us. And so it's like, how do you learn through those experiences and those times when being in a situation where you're being stretched, life challenges or obstacles or circumstances come your way? Do you stay stagnant in the space of, oh, this happened to me and woe is me, or do you use it as an opportunity to say, okay, it's happening to me. What am I supposed to learn from this experience? Learn what you need to learn in that process, and then how do you actually then take that process and then move towards your resiliency and learn the lesson that you're supposed to learn through that process.
Right.
So it's not necessarily going over the process. It's actually going through the process. Allowing yourself to go through the process, learn the lesson, and get to the other side of the process.
Awesome. Thank you. That's so important. It's one of the things I say, and it'll lead me to my final question, which is, in understanding who we are and getting clarity, one of the greatest tools you use is reflection, self-reflection.
Yes.
Right? So for my last question of the day, for our midday chat, I take everything back to life balance and setting. The time of year, everyone is focused on resolutions, which I don't like the word, but resolutions, goal setting, and kind of just assessing life, right? We always start the year and we're like, oh my God, is my life okay? What did I do? Where am I going? Hello.
Right.
So
what's your navigator? You're navigating your compass for the year.
Yeah. Tell me how what you do in this season to kind of kick off the year for your goals, resolutions, and your achievements, and how are you kind of getting yourself in order?
Right. So, I think for me, it's a lot of reflection. One of the things I started doing last year is I started creating like a gratitude box, or something that I poured the things that have happened to me into, like a little, I slipped on a weekly or a daily basis that might have happened to me, something that was challenging, that was positive, something that I learned a lesson from, and I do a lot of on those things at the end of the year, and that kind of sets the tone and helps me to kind of like, okay, like what happened, and take the time to that process where I understand and I own the things that have happened to me, good or indifferent. And so I allow myself to actually go through those things that I have collected. And I keep track of it in in a box, jars. Some people, but I actually literally write down in little bits of papers things that have happened to me, that are great things that have happened to me, that are learning moments. And I reflect on those here, and that kind of helps me to set the tone and the direction. And there are also things that I'll drop things in there that I wanted to also accomplish for that year, or things that it also helps me to look and say, okay, maybe I fell short on, but there's an opportunity for me to continue that work. I really look at the end of the year as, oh, I didn't get it by the end of the year. It's an opportunity for me to continue the work.
Yeah.
And so I might start that process that actually might start itself in a particular year, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's limited to a physical calendar. The work that needs to happen. So yes, I don't necessarily look at there's these things that I accomplished this year and that I didn't get a chance to do. So I might have failed in my accomplishments. No, it's like the work continues, but I've started it, and it's moving, but it might not necessarily come to fruition in the calendar year, which is okay.
It's absolutely.
Yeah.
I write that
Yeah.
in my roadmap kit that will be coming out soon. I'll be sharing that with everyone. I write that in my kit as part of your instructions to know that goals are not about fitting into a calendar year. It's the journey
Right.
within, journey from, conception, conceiving, visualization, and
Right.
through accomplishing it. Along that way, the small tasks that you're doing to get to achieve the bigger picture. It's not what happens within a year's time, but just how much are you advancing that needle closer to your reaching your goal, right? So yeah, I don't.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
so I was not to cut you off. I was going to say that for me, it's more moving into a different phase. So I look at it as, oh, it's not necessarily setting new goals. I mean, I have work that continues from year to year, and so I might just in the phase of that work or the capacity around that. And I think for me, changing my mindset around how I look at goals and the fact that it's not year to year and it doesn't limit itself from being like a year to year kind of opportunity, totally changed my scope of the work, because I would try to push. Oh, I have to get it done by the end of this year. It's to go. When I allowed myself to say, listen, there's phases and stages to each part of the work that we do, and sometimes that happens within a year. Sometimes it falls in between 2 years or 3 years.
Right.
And it's a matter of being open to what the looks like. But
right,
I find like when I force the process and I allow it to happen and unravel itself or unveil itself the way it's supposed to, the work gets done.
yes. So
yeah, the work and the connections get made.
Yes.
And the partnerships happen.
Yes. When you're authentic, authenticity has a lot to do with all of that as well. Well, yeah, I want to thank you so much for being my special guest on my midday chat in the We Are
Amazing
page, group page. I appreciate you. Don't you just love this Facebook thing?
I love it.
Right? Isn't this awesome? And I have to say, full transparency, I hate going on live because I'm like, ooh, what I'm gonna talk about and I feel like I'm, you talking to yourself half the time. But when you get this interaction, it's a conversation, and you get to share and really let people know what we're about and what we are doing to help women.
And that's for real. It's not a name on a book, or it's not a name on on a platform, or on an event, billing. It's like you're a real person going through real things.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much. Tell us again if you have a website where we can find your books, where we can find you, your pages. Put it in the comment. I'll have you put everything in the comments for this live so that people could see it. If you guys are watching, share this out with your friends and just let them see what we're all working on here in the We Are Women on the Rise Facebook group. Have a good day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Marsha.
All right.